When you talk about a claw is on a reptile.
It's also on mammals.
You would call that a claw? Okay.
You know, the keratin at the end of the digit.
Okay, and they do not have nails?
Lemurs?
Lemurs.
Lemurs have nails.
Okay, so.
No, I mean, lemurs have nails. But they said that this one had a nail. So that made it a human ancestor. But modern lemurs have nails.
Right.
You get, hello?
I mean, we're talking about the
But
same thing, there's no change.
There's no change.
Okay. I thought they were trying to say, here's a
Remember I
change.
said we're talking about, maybe you weren't here, just so stories. Okay. Neanderthals. This is the original drawing of the Neanderthal. I found some skeletons in France, in Germany, in the Neander Valley. Looks pretty gruesome, right? Brutish, ape-like. And the first one was found near Dusseldorf, a century and a half ago, and it was what? Constructed to look ape-like. It didn't look ape-like, it was constructed to look ape-like, and the brain capacity is bigger than ours. And the initial construction proved to be somewhat wrong, because it actually probably looked like that, okay? Which is a human with a beard, okay? And Neanderthals used jewelry, they used musical instruments, they did cave paintings, they were capable of speech, and we know this, because the hyoid bone is only, it's a human, it's peculiar to humans. And the structure of it allows the vocal cords to run. And also you can tell by some of the structures in the head. And they buried their dead. And they painted beautiful cave paintings, okay? With just amazing. And they did, by the way, they did those cave paintings in dark caves. Okay, so they had better eyesight. And if you go to any Neanderthal cave man exhibition, what you'll see is on the right, which is the jaw is always pushed forward to make it look ape-like. And the hinge point is usually about an inch away from the hinge. But if you connect the hinge to where it's supposed to be on the skull, what you end up with is a flat human appearance. This is done purposefully. Okay, purposefully. And here's an interesting thing. Neanderthals were assumed to be from 130 to 30,000 years ago, and they existed for 100,000 years. And that would be roughly at 40 years per generation, that's 2,500 generations. And from the year 81 to now, our population increased 300 million to 6 billion. That's 100 generations. Okay, so that's about what human populations go. And there's lots of scientific theory and models about that. The problem is there should have been over 50 billion Neanderthals, and where are their fossils? You should actually be stepping on piles of bones in Europe, but there aren't any. So they were a robust people, they're 100% human, they lived in a cold, harsh climate, and they were probably some of the first generations off the ark, migrated from Babel. That's what they look like. They just look like sturdy people. Oh, here's the good one. Australopithecines. What was found? How old is Lucy? And did she walk upright? Well, Lucy was discovered in 1984. There's the reconstruction that you see all the time of Lucy, okay? And that's in the Cleveland Museum.
Very thoughtful looking.
Yeah.
And thoughtful. It looks like she's thinking, what can I buy on my way to the mall?
Right.
Anyway, 40% of the fossil was found. It was claimed to be 3.5 million years old, and it was claimed to be bipedal because, walked upright, because there were human footprints in the same layer found miles away. Okay? in the same layer of strata, several miles away, there were human footprints. So they couldn't have been human. They had to have been Australopithecine. So this is what you found, okay? Here's what I found. Here's what I drew, okay? And, oh, there's no feet. They have no feet. So, what do you think? Is this what you would call a just so story?
Yes.
A fairy tale? And why? Because of those footprints several miles away. Had to be Lucy. There's no, they other than the fact that they have 4 legs, 2 arms and 2 legs and a head, they aren't very much like humans. And but they are very much like chimpanzees with long arms, and the jaws are similar to chimpanzees, and the upper leg bone is similar to a chimp, and the legs are very ape-like, and the brain size overlaps that with modern chimps, and the large back muscles for tree drawing, because you can look at the attachment points on the bones. And the hands are similar to pygmy bones, pygmy chimpanzees, and the feet were long and curved. There's a human foot, and they did eventually find some with feet, okay? And the feet look like that.
Like the gray one?
Yeah, like the gray ones. Not like the humans, okay? Did Lucy walk upright? No, she was a knuckle dweller. A knuckle walker, pardon me. That's what Lucy looked like, reconstructed, okay? I walked over to the cabinet and pulled out Lucy and Suzanne. Looked like a knuckle walker. The anatomy, it said it's a tree-dwelling ape, and the drawing from Life, Science, and Biology shows that, and St. Louis Zoo. And here's the problem. Those footprints are pure human footprints. And they were found a couple miles away in the same layer. So therefore, Lucy had to be the person who made those footprints. Who made these footprints? Lucy did, because it was the only hominid alive at that time. So therefore, that's how they know Lucy had made those footprints. Although, once they found other afarensis that don't have that kind of foot. But, for instance, Professor Betsy Schumann says that we know that the statue's feet are probably not accurate, but we're not going to change them. Okay? It doesn't matter if people get indoctrinated into evolution by the wrong evidence. Remember, they tell lies to advance big truths. There's an example of that. There was a quote. You read that, right? Lucy's pelvis is wrong. Now, how can their pelvis be wrong? Well, let's take a look at this. This is PBS Nova, In Search of Human Origins, Episode 1, Dr. Owen Lovejoy. This was on television. And this is Dr. David Menton explaining about Lucy. Okay, where is it?
The big problem, however, are the hips. Now, there's a distinct hip for apes and humans. As far as I know, no overlap. You can't confuse an ape hip with a human hip. What's the big difference? If you look at the top, that's a chimp. And at the bottom, that would be human. Notice the iliac blades of the human go front to back like this. Whereas the ape, the iliac blades flare out laterally. So if I put this in place, in the human, this blade would be here, and the ape, it would be out here. Why is that important? You need to have it this way if you're going to walk. So you can look at the pelvis and tell whether you're looking at an ape pelvis that cannot walk anything at all like we do, or a human pelvis. The big question is, what kind of pelvis does Lucy have? The fact that the anterior portion of the iliac blade faces laterally in humans, but not in chimps, is obvious. The marked resemblance of Lucy to the chimpanzee is equally obvious. Now, what are the evolutionists going to do about that? There was a PBS Nova series in which Dr. Owen Lovejoy, a very distinguished, famous paleoanthropologist, was involved. And he's looking at Lucy's skeleton here, and he's lamenting the fact that the hips are all wrong. They're supposed to be human-like hips, so you can walk the way the Latoli footprints showed she walked, but they don't look like human hips, they look like ape hips. What to do about this? Watch it, you'll get a big kick out of this.
The ape that stood up, it was a revolutionary idea. We needed Owen Lovejoy's expertise again, because the evidence wasn't quite adding up. The knee looked human, but the shape of her hip didn't. Superficially, her hip resembled a chimpanzee's, which meant that Lucy couldn't possibly have walked like a modern human. But Lovejoy noticed something odd about the way the bones have been fossilized.
When I put the two parts of the pelvis together that we had, this part of the pelvis
Look how
was pressed
closely
so
it fits.
hard and so completely into this one
Like it
that
belongs.
it caused
right?
it to be broken into a series of individual pieces which were then fused together in later bone.
So you see they were broken and they don't fit together properly. They did speculate in the program as to exactly who was responsible for breaking the hip, and current scientific evidence suggests perhaps a deer stepped on it. Here you can see a deer foot stepping on the bone. Isn't that a bummer? Let's see where it goes from here.
This has caused the two bones, in fact, to fit together so well that they're in an anatomically impossible position.
The perfect fit was an illusion that made Lucy's hip bones seem to flare out like a chimp's. But all was not lost.
This is a power saw, friends. You may want to put your goggles on.
Lovejoy decided he could restore the pelvis to its natural shape. He didn't want to tamper with the original, so he made a copy in plaster.
Notice he's removing whole parts, not just cutting.
He cut the damaged pieces out and put them back together the way they were before Lucy died.
How did he know that?
It was a tricky job, but after taking the pink out of the pelvis, it all fit together perfectly, like a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle.
Look how perfect. You can read a newspaper through the hole.
As a result, the angle of the hip looks nothing like a chimp's, but a lot like ours.
Yeah, now, this is what we call science. You can teach this in the public schools, but you can't criticize it, because if you do, that would be religious.
Isn't that interesting?